how do you measure it? And how, besides going out and getting vacuum tubes full of oxygen, he discovered or came up with the idea of investigating how to get old oxygen out of ice cores.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
The permafrost? Is that,
Yeah.
He was also involved in that?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Really?
He was
I did
in
not.
the,
Wow.
around 1980.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's I learn things all the time.
Yeah, they
You know?
discovered there were bubbles inside the ice cores. They'd never been able to get inside. There was CO2 in there. And they analyzed the CO2. They discovered an almost perfect correlation between CO2 and temperatures. In the past, thousands of years ago, as CO2 levels went up, temperatures went up with them.
Mm-hmm.
As they went down, same story. Temperatures went down. So he realized, and it sounds bizarre, but CO2 acts like a thermostat for climate on this planet.
That's amazing.
And was it your line or was it his, the miniature ice museums? Or whether
Miniature
line
ice
inside? I
museum.
love that idea.
Yeah.
That inside, this discovery that inside these ice cores were these little tiny, tiny museums that you could
Yes.
break open and move into if they could figure out how to do it. Up until he and his son went to Switzerland, right?
That's where they did
and worked
work.
with a French team. They discovered how to capture the oxygen inside and measure it.
Wow.
See, the idea that CO2 is the same all over the planet is true, but that's only in nature. And that was Keeling's take. That was the thought he had, because he wanted to do science in nature.
So the government probably was very interested in his studies then, or not?
No.
No, not really. No. No.
They canceled his program in 1960, the end of 1963.
Wow.
There were 3 months in early 1964 where there were no measurements of CO2.
Yeah.
Kennedy wanted to send astronauts to the moon, and
That
it was
was the
very
reason.
expensive. And I'll say this, I'll just interject this, but I really wonder if we're going to hear a lot of talk about going to Mars, and that's really what we should be doing. It's a huge distraction. Frankly, I think it's a fantasy, but.
Well, I think it sounds more like it's a distraction.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Because the bottom line is we're talking about political economics.
Absolutely right. And we've got big businesses out there whose existence is based on fossil fuels.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is in fact the fossil fuels that are creating this global warming or this climate change, call it what you like, that spells doom for them, and they
That's
don't
right.
want that to be the case. So
That's
you've
right.
got this actually a cult of deniers. Some of them are paid big bucks to come up with negative information to poo-poo the idea of
Fake
global warming
news.
or climate. Oh yeah, fake news.
Mm-hmm. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, and we should call it what it is, in
Sure.
my view, because there's, like we've been talking, and we're going to continue talking in another episode. You know, there's plenty of data. There's no need for denial or to call something a hoax.
Well, when you have the IPCC, this international group of scientists, 97-3 maintaining that global warming is a very real phenomenon and it is dangerous.
Yes.
It seems to me that the arrogance of those people in the denialist camp is phenomenal.
And what is this? Wasn't there was something in the news this week? There was an Associated Press story, and I saw it in the LA Times. I think online it was even on the New York Times link. 3 members of the Reagan-era cabinet.
Sure.
Did they have a meeting with the senior advisor in the White House, or do we know what's going
They
on
had a
there, or-
meeting this past week. I don't know what the result was. But about 3 years ago, Henry Paulson put out a study called the Risky Business Report.
What is that?
Well, very simply, if climate change really takes off, you won't be able to do business. Okay? They see
Yeah.
it as a threat to business. And that makes sense. I mean, I've heard climate scientists say to me, I don't think anything's really going to change until the business community realizes it's a threat to their business.
So, but can it transition into a more green economy?
We have to.
I mean, how is that going to happen? I mean, we're seeing in Germany, and places like that where, you know, they don't even have nearly as much sun as we do here in California. And so obviously it can be done with just solar, but there's also wind, there's also geothermal,
Sure.
you
But
know.
you mentioned the economic imperative.
Yeah.
If business wants to make a profit, if they can find out that they can make not only a profit, but continue to the existence of
Yes.
people on this planet
That's right.
through this process of green economies, green businesses, figuring out how to use geothermal and solar and all the alternative technologies that are available to us, instead of this insistent reliance on fossil fuels, then there's hope.